It's the midweek, which means one thing. My first question is for Dylan Butler of MLSsoccer.com. Which cup of coffee are you on, sir?
Still just one.
Okay.
Still just one. But we are, I got midway through one. We're
Okay.
definitely going to get to two, though, for sure.
Okay. All right. So
It was a late night. It was a late night with some CanChamp drama. So
well, that and a coach deciding to take his shirt off after he won, and so
yeah, there was a concern that we'd get to Ronnie Dyla levels there. And while it's a moment that everyone in Vancouver will remember for a lifetime, those aren't necessarily the memories that you want to have.
no stuff that's burned into your brain forever is a coach
Correct.
that is walking around the turf at BC Place without his shirt off. Put your shirt back on. Get the man a CanChamp T-shirt and have him put it on, please.
That's right.
So Vancouver wins in penalties. Second largest crowd, I think, in CanChamp history, behind one
Correct.
at BMO back 5 years ago. Does this say more about Vancouver, or does it say more about how much more work Toronto has to do, or is this just something that is separate for you, and I'm going to put it over here?
Yeah, I mean, look, let's start with giving Vancouver the credit that they deserve, right? They won it on penalties, but if you watch their first half, brilliant, like great stuff. Even like right off the kickoff, Cavallini has an opportunity like 30 seconds in, right, where he forces Alex Bono to make a big save. They were very good. They were very good, especially for the first 45 minutes. The negative for them, and Sartini mentioned it in his post-match press conference, which, by the way, the poor guy, he just won a championship, right? He cracks open a beer on the podium. They take it away from him. I guess it wasn't a sponsor.
That's what I was guessing.
Dude, red cup it. Come on. Hook him up, right? Solo cup. Come on.
I mean,
he deserves it. But anyway, I digress. So the first 45, incredible. The only thing that they didn't do was score another goal, right? And they had two great chances right at the end of the first half. Ryan Gold scorches one, and Bono's got to get his fingertips on it. And then Ryan Raposa, who was excellent as well, gets on the end of a service and just directs it a little bit wide of the far post across the face of the goal. So if it's 2-0 at halftime, I think it doesn't even get the PKs, right? You knew that, of course, Toronto's going to get a push. They start their star Italians in this match as well, and they go a pretty long distance as well. Bernardeschi played the whole match, went into PKs obviously too, and he converted his. And Insigne, I think he left around the 80th minute, 85th minute, somewhere like that. So, they were good, but again, I think let's give the credit to the victors here. It was a great night in British Columbia for them, a deserved victory. And listen too, they went 5 for 5 on their PKs, right? Like that's something to be said. I mean, Osorio puts his off the post, so neither keeper makes a save, but they were clinical from the spot. They deserved it.
And Toronto decided not to have a post-match press opportunity. I mean, not even Bob Bradley. Bob Bradley said, and I think word trickled out one way or the other, that the team elected, on the whole, not to have a post-match press opportunity. That's just not.
That's not their. They shouldn't have the. It shouldn't be a vote. It's like it's not up for vote, right? Like you speak to the press in the good or the bad, right?
Yeah.
Like 4-0 at Charlotte. We're happy to talk, right? That's fine. We could talk about that after the match. Not a good look from Toronto there.
And I know that Canada Soccer has a lot of more things that are far more important on their plate right now, but the fact that you have one of your coaches in your championship game decide, that's. I wonder if we're going to see more of that in MLS with Toronto FC this season. Wins, yeah, we're cool. Losses, I may just, I'm here so I don't get fined, or I'm not going to be here, so go ahead and fine me. I wonder if that's a precedent that's being set.
Yeah, I hope not, right?
Yeah.
I hope it's a one-off because it's not good for the sport in any way that you paint it, right? Like it wasn't, there wasn't some horrible injustice that went against them.
You didn't get blown out.
You didn't get blown out. You lost on PKs, right? Yeah. After winning the 2020 championship 2 months ago, right? COVID, weird. Yeah. On PKs as well, right? You spoke after that match, right? I'm sure you did. Yeah. Did Forge FC speak after that match? I don't know, but probably.
Yeah.
I would guess they did, because they were probably proud of the way that they battled and played against an MLS team. I would suspect Vanni Sartini, even though he said if they lost, it would have been a disaster, he would have spoken to the local media. I have no doubt about that. So,
and he probably still would have tried to bring a beer up to the dais with him.
He might have.
All right. So speaking of good news, I it's something that you have talked about here on the network a lot, and it appears, I'm just going to put that verb in the sentence, it appears that NYCFC is this much closer. And for those that can't see, because this is an audio form, I have my index finger and my thumb about 2 inches apart. We're that close to getting a 25,000-seat soccer stadium in the borough of your choice, sir, that you have been championing from the absolute beginning. We're this close, close to Queens and NYCFC. What did you think when the mayor came out with that yesterday?
Yeah, it's again, it was common sense to me, right? Like it's like when you see something and you're that kind of close to it as I am as a Queens native, right? I was born and raised in the borough, in different parts of the borough, so I was keenly aware of how much of how diverse the borough is, how much it loves soccer. One of the cooler, gonna sidetrack a little bit here, but one of my earlier jobs in journalism was for a chain of weekly papers in Queens, right? So I was there for maybe a decade, I think. And obviously with the World Cup every 4 years, one of the assignments that I would do every year was go to different local areas where that World Cup or whoever's playing that match, right, their fans were celebrating. And there was never I can't find Croatians. Like, where can we find these guys? Or where are the Mexicans? Or where are the Colombians? Because they were all there, right? Like, it's such a diverse borough. It only makes sense. The area is there to be built on. Now it's just down to obviously some political wrangling, I'm sure, and everything else that comes with it. But a little bit of relief, but also the understanding that these things still do take a lot of time. So even from shovel in the ground, it's going to take time, right? So your hope is by the World Cup in 2026 that, it's a venue that, if it hasn't already been utilized, is ready to go for that year. You hope it's before that, but I'm super pleased that the potential permanent home will be in Queens. A little, I joked with my wife this morning. I was like, now they have this stadium coming up, and we've moved out of that area. Like, we literally would have been 5 minutes from the stadium where we lived in College Point, but I digress.
So, all right. So walk me through this a little bit. And I know that this is where your expertise in New York politics / sports / wrangling, this is where this is going to come to the fore here. According to the article in the New York Post, and Jarrett and I talked about this on the Wall Pass Wednesday, even with the mayor's blessing, the stadium would still need to be approved through the Uniform Land Use Review Procedure, which is not a given. So that to me just sounds like the legal wrangling that you're talking about, and the ULURP, which is it's a hell of an acronym, by the way. It just seems like that not clear yet who would pay for the stadium. Shock. But sources said it would be privately funded, which I found interesting, and it would be built on land leased by former Mets owners Sterling Equities and related companies. And this is I need your geography here. This is part of the 61-acre Special Willets Point District, bordered by 126th, Roosevelt, Northern, and the Van Wyck Expressway. Where is that in relation to where Citi Field is?
Right there. Like Citi Field, one edge of it is Roosevelt, like where the 7 train is. That's Roosevelt Avenue, 126th Street. That's the train station as well. And then Northern is just a little bit past like the outfield. So it's not, it's all right there. Willets Point has, it's in the process of kind of rebuilding and renovating. They have a lot of like chop shops and like things like that are just next to Citi Field. So that I would suspect that would be where they would build the stadium. It's ironic, not ironic, I guess, but interesting because when NYCFC first became a team, this was the area that they wanted originally. And they had looked at Flushing Meadow Corona Park, which is right next. Also, again, it's all part of that area where Citi Field is and where Arthur Ashe Stadium and the whole tennis complex is. And that received major community backlash because it's funny because you hear a stadium is coming in and immediately it triggers points, right? So it's a stadium that's going to be Flushing Meadow Park. Don't take away our park space. Okay. So now NYCFC is this new team, absolutely brand new to the area. They're like, okay, hang on, we're going to backtrack. Don't worry about it. We'll go to the Bronx. Like they didn't want to deal with the repercussions or be this sort of bad guy coming in, right? This foreign whatever conglomerate, right? Yeah. Coming in to take away your park space. I don't believe that's going to be the case here. Again, it's going to be likely this Willets Point area that again is just sort of, if you need if you have a broken windshield, you go and get it on the cheap, right? Like it's they're already decided they're getting rid of all that. So, and I've told you before on many times, I think on the show as well, Flushing Meadow Corona Park, right, is, I don't know the exact acreage, but it's massive. It's a huge, huge park. Again, right next to it, NYCFC actually did one of their mini pitches right there. It's got the big Unisphere and everything, like you see it on like Men in Black, right? Like, like it's all. What it has as well is an incredible culture of soccer and soccer fields, and these fans, they will be their fans from as soon as they move in, right? Like it's going to be. Those fields are always packed, and it's such an incredible vibe. Like you've got the stands that sell empanadas and chorizos and all the good stuff, and it's such a soccer rich area, right? Like it deserves to have a team that they can call their own.
Also, elsewhere in the article, see, now you mentioned empanadas and chorizo. Now,
my bad.
I'm getting hungry. Citi Field, Arthur Ashe are in the Flushing Meadows Park area. We talked about that. Soon, a soccer stadium, possibly if Steve Cohen gets his way, a full-scale casino could be added. There have also been commitments to affordable housing and a public school in Willets Point, which will likely be raised in the ULURP process. Scale of 1 to 10. Do you think this gets done?
10 being yes?
Yes, 10 being yes. Absolutely. Oh, my God, this is such a lock. It's not even funny.
There's no such thing in New York City construction and politics. So I would say a solid 7.
Okay.
7.5 maybe.
Okay, so 7.5. So it's a tune you can dance to, but it's not quite the gold record status. All right, so yeah, that came across yesterday, and I'm like, yeah, we have to talk to you about this. So that was number one. Going back to the weekend that was, what stood out to you other than the craziness of Red Bulls, who rotated everybody, probably including Gerhard Struber, going up against Austin in a 7-goal piece of madness at Q2. What were some of your talking points from the weekend?
Yeah, I mean, that's a good place to start. I think Red Bull from the very beginning stayed true to who they are, right? They're going to press you regardless of where they are and the circumstance and the oppressive heat and humidity. They don't care, right? They're going to press you. I was surprised maybe at how, I don't know what the right word is, but like not disinterested, but Josh Wolf seemed to stick to his tactics even when they weren't working, right? Like I thought he'd go to a plan B a little bit quicker. Didn't. Obviously the Red Bulls then just wilted late, and obviously then it became just a crazy game. And I think a great result for them. Obviously it's their 7th road win, which is tied for the league high, and rotating. And I think also being in that climate, I think helps them now with the Open Cup semifinal against Orlando, right? Which, once you get to this stage, it's huge. Red Bull, I remember the great Mark Fishkin, who has a really awesome podcast as well, Seeing Red, has had it for many years, put out a tweet about all the different times that the Metro Stars / Red Bulls have been to the semifinals. I remember one of them too was 2003 out at Rutgers, where they beat DC United 3-2. Only one championship match, right? Where they lose it at Chicago that year. So it's you don't, you harken back a little bit to what Sartini was talking about last night, right? Like you don't get to finals a lot, right? Usually you don't get an opportunity to play in them. So that's what's in front of these two teams. And again, the big carrot that goes along with lifting the trophy for the Open Cup is that berth in the Champions League, right? Mm-hmm. So a huge moment for Orlando. You'd got to say this is got to be the biggest moment in the club's history, no? Yeah. Like, I mean, Red Bulls obviously have been to MLS Cup. They played in the Champions League semifinals, losing to Chivas Guadalajara. So they've had some big moments, but this is it for Orlando. They're home as well. Very, very intriguing match for the Open Cup in that one. I know I kind of bounced forward.
Hey, it's a Wednesday. That's what we do. There's no problem. So then let's go to the other side. Let's go to the Western matchup since we're there, because actually I was going to head in this direction, but you beat me to it. Sporting Kansas City, Sacramento Republic. That's your late game. So it'll be Lamar Hunt U.S. Open Cup After Dark at Heart Health Park in Sacramento. Sacramento has the chance to be the first lower division side since the Charleston Battery to make the final, I believe. And this is where Peter Vermes is putting everything behind U.S. Open Cup, as he should, considering right now you're at the bottom of the table in the West, and this is the only way, I think, emotionally that you can salvage a really poor season is by beating Sacramento and being one step closer to being in CONCACAF Champions League when you're last in the West.
Yeah, no, correct. We've said this a few times, right? Like, do they punt on the season? Open Cup is all they've got to play for, and even fast forward a little bit more, right? Like, let's say that they win Open Cup and they do go in to the Champions League. They'll be, you would hope, at least they'll be healthy by then, right?
Yeah.
So,
but you still got to get a 6.
Yes, but you've got Kinda back, you've got Polito back, right? Like, you like the idea of guys like that in the CCL. It was funny last night too when I was watching the Canadian Championship match. I was like, as sort of a neutral, I'm like, who would I rather see in the Champions League, right? Like, yeah, obviously Toronto and sort of their new look. But then again, too, like I've been such a big fan of Ryan Gauld from the very beginning. I thought he was brilliant last night. BC Place is just like it's a weird place to play, right? Like it's you get a big crowd like they had last night. So yeah, I'm happy that they're in it as well. Yeah, you could have some weird teams, right? Represent MLS next year in it. Potentially teams that don't even make the MLS playoffs this year, especially in the West.
I mean, you theoretically could have, as your, and if you want to take it in college basketball parlance, your 15 and your 16 seeds probably playing those Liga MX sides in the opening round, Vancouver and the winner of Open Cup, especially if it's somebody like a Sporting. They could be your 15 and your 16 seeds going in.
Yeah, no, 100%. It's weird, right? Like, I mean, you balance it out with like an LAFC you would expect if they win the Supporters Shield of Philly, whoever wins Cup. But yeah, no, it's it's weird to see those teams in it. But now Sporting has a great history as well in the Open Cup. But I think what we've learned from Sacramento Republic throughout this competition is this is going to be a fight, right? Like they're going to battle you for 90 plus. They've been very, very good. Of the teams that have impressed, Union Omaha obviously earlier on, right? But like this is the team because it's also the way that they've won. They've not bunkered down and waited and won on PKs or been lucky. They outplayed the LA Galaxy, in LA, right? Like they were better than them. They deserve to be.
Do not leave Luis Felipe alone with the ball.
Seriously,
do not do that. But no, I've been completely impressed with Sacramento. They haven't backed down from anybody. And they're going to come in. They're going to do their thing. It's a home game, and I think the thing sold out like 2.5, 3 weeks ago.
Nice,
so
yeah.
It is going to be absolutely crazy tonight. So what you're basically saying is we need to budget our caffeine through the day, maybe get in a nap, and be ready for U.S. Open Cup After Dark with this one tonight?
How do you do that with a 3-year-old? I'm not sure.
Wow, that's a good question. Well, I'll have to defer to Jared on that one because for me, it's parents and pets. I do not have youngins wandering around. I have parents and pets, and I have we have our new addition to the family, an adopted Peak, and
nice.
He's having to go through his heartworm treatments right now. So he is not a happy man. He's kind of sitting there going, "Really? I got to do this?" Yeah, so he's been up all night. So it's been trying to make sure that he doesn't get excited and all those kinds of things. So we've got that for the next 3 weeks. So that is my substitute for having 3-year-olds is a new dog here at Office HD. You mentioned Toronto. You mentioned Toronto.
Yeah.
Toronto puts up 4 at home against Charlotte. And I guess this once again gets us into the idea of what does this say more about? Charlotte on the road regressing to the mean, how scary Toronto can be, but at the same time, it's all offense and it's at home, and I still think that they still got to stop folks. So what does that one say more about, or is it still individual cases here?
Yeah, I think for Toronto, it big picture wise, you could kind of say it's BMO was buzzing again, right? Like it felt like it did in their trouble year, right? When Giovinco and Josie were combining and Osorio and Delgado, and like they were so good. For one night, it felt like that, right? Now you're right. How much you take away from beating an expansion team at home, right? Like that's the bigger question. I think it was a perfect storm, certainly for Toronto, because I thought the opponent and the way that they played, I thought suited Toronto perfectly, right? So it wasn't they weren't necessarily getting pressed high, and their back line wasn't being attacked too much, right? So still plenty of questions, I think. But confidence in this sport is a funny thing, right? Like if you get a little bit of confidence and you see it work the other way, like with Atlanta, for example, right? Like they've conceded so early and often in matches, you don't even get the chance to be confident, right? Yeah. Like, so this is an opportunity for Toronto, who have obviously had their struggles throughout really 2/3 of the season now, to feel good, to feel confident, to try to build off of that. The Canadian Championship loss notwithstanding, but I'm not throwing another parade right out at Lakeshore. We need to see more data points and more matches and them on the road and teams preparing for their superstars. So book is still out, obviously, and for Charlotte, yeah, look, they not unlike Austin, or I think they've been a little bit better than Austin in their first year, you would say. But it feels like they're kind of hitting the wall now, right? Like, and how do they bounce back from that? How do they respond? They've already had a tumultuous first season, on and off the pitch. So this is an interesting time as well for Charlotte, right? Like, do they just go in a tailspin now in the final third of the season, or can they rebound from this stretch that they're in?
Yeah, Top Ben 90 had them interested in Latif Blessing. They've waived TT Ortiz, so we'll see if 1 + 1 = 2 when it comes to those two. Let's go full circle here before we go to the weekend that it will be. NYCFC. Someone had his farewell match, and it was, now he's headed off to Girona. And where do you see NYC without Tati Castellanos? Are they looking to fill a space? Are they looking to fill that void internally, hopefully with a healthy Hebert? I mean, what are you looking at here for a team that, is losing their talisman and, couldn't have happened, frankly, at a worse time for them as they're chasing playoff spots? I mean, what do you see with NYC here?
Yeah, I mean, I think Nick Cushing said it well in that post-match press conference where he said Hebert has, in the times that Castellanos hasn't played this year, right, whether it was through suspension or injury, Hebert's been the guy to step in, and he also scored goals in that. So I think he's option number one for them. I think he slots in well. And remember too, when he was healthy and the two of them were on the field together a couple of years ago, it was Castellanos out on the wing and Hebert as the number 9, right? So I think he said, yeah, listen, we're, without saying it, I think he'd get the first nod at it. And he also hinted at maybe Talis Magno could potentially get a sniff there as well. And again, move him from the wing. And I think a lot of those spots are interchangeable anyway in their front three. So I think those your two main options. Are always interested in possible additions, though I think that their main priority right now is in the midfield, in that 6/8 role that Keaton Parks was in. I think he's a guy who's difficult to replace. I don't think there's necessarily a like for like for him on the roster, right? So I think that is more, when you look at shopping this late in the secondary transfer window, I think that's more at their need, NYCFC, than necessarily finding a Tati replacement. I think they have enough scoring options and enough depth in the final third right now to deal with that. But I think they could use a little extra help, perhaps in the midfield.
Weekend that will be starts with Friday Night Football with LAFC hosting Seattle. Saturday, you've got Portland going to Minnesota. NYC, we mentioned them. They're going to CF Montreal, soon to be Impact, probably, hopefully, maybe. Some interesting matchups. The two teams that were in the CanChamp are large underdogs. No real surprise on a quick turn. Vancouver heads to Nashville. Toronto is a plus 365 heading to New England. When you look at the matchups on the weekend, what sticks in your head?
Yeah, I mean, it was one of the first that you mentioned. I think Minnesota-Portland is a great match because they're two teams that are really in form right now, right? Minnesota, off the top of my head, I believe, is unbeaten in 6. Portland is unbeaten in 7, right? I think that's a fun one because, again, you've got two teams that are playing well. For Minnesota, it was interesting because you give them credit. They so much of what they do is through Reynoso, right? But then they didn't have him on the weekend, and they won, right? Like, I'm not even going to begin to try to pronounce his name. I think Adrian Heath, what did he call him? Just Banji, right?
Longwane?
Yeah.
Yeah. The H is silent and go with the rest. Longwane.
There you go. He was great, right? Like a really good performance. He's been playing well of late, which has been big for them. And for Portland, it's super interesting because it feels like, if we can pump a little Whitesnake in here, like, here we go again on my own, right? Like, here come the Timbers, right? Like, lo and behold, second half run. And since the June international break, they've not lost, right? And they had Asprilla doing his thing again. And this was without a suspended Blanco. Williamson back in the lineup, right? So they're getting healthier. Again, the confidence is a huge thing, and they're making their push as well. So from a matchup standpoint, I think that's interesting. NYCFC Montreal, maybe more so just to see, right? Like what's the lineup look like? First match post Tati, that should be one certainly to keep an eye out for.
Yeah. Atlanta, Chicago. Atlanta's in a must-win situation, I think, on the road.
Chicago's playing better, too, right? So they're making the push at the line. That's an interesting one. I look at Charlotte, Columbus, right? Again, we just talked about Charlotte wanting to bounce back. Columbus wants to keep their run going. They're coming off of that, was it 0-0, right, last weekend? So for me, I think those are the biggest ones. And then look, you go MLS After Dark with San Jose, Real Salt Lake, right? Like, how much fun is that going to be?
Yeah.
Right. That's got like 6-4 or something like that, with both teams down to 9 all over it.
Take the over in that.
Yeah.
What's going on at MLSsoccer.com? What's on the byline these days? What's going on?
Yeah, like a little CanChamp rehash a little bit, and looking forward for Vancouver, a piece that we're working on right now as we speak. And then I think, what do I got for OSDB this week? We did the snubs. We did the kind of big summer signings and how each of them seem to be hitting right out of the gate. What is my next story now? I can't even think. So I need my second cup of coffee, I think, and I've got to write it too within the next couple of days. So yeah, stay tuned, right? Like we'll figure it out. We'll go down the journey together, folks, to find out what that story is. And then obviously some Open Cup tonight, right? That should be a lot of fun.
Yep, that's going to be fun. Yeah, Lamar Hunt U.S. Open Cup later tonight. Dylan, as always, great to catch up with you at OSDB and MLSsoccer.com. We'll catch up with you soon, my friend. Thank you.
Yeah, bud. Thank you.